Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday. So glad that you are joining us. And as you jump in here, if you want to leave me a comment in the chat and let me know where you are joining us from, that would be great. It looks like we are now connected on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and YouTube. So welcome to everyone that is joining. If you are catching this on the replay, make sure that you use hashtag replay so I know that that's when you saw us. And just some housekeeping if you're joining on Facebook. If you will go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, give Facebook and StreamYard permission to speak with each other. That way, if you leave us a comment, it won't just say Facebook user, we'll actually have your name. And if you've already done that on the device on what you're watching us, you don't need to do it again. You should be good to go. But just go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. So if you are new to me and I am new to you, let's have some introductions. My name is Beverly Smith, and I am the founder of Career Success Strategies. I'm also the former owner of a staffing and recruiting firm. So I know firsthand what hiring managers are looking for, and I use that knowledge to help mid, senior, and executive level professionals build their resumes, work on their LinkedIn branding, and help them with their job search strategy so that they can land the career of their dreams. So last week, my friend Adrienne Dominguez of Rolling Staffing returned to the program, and we talked all about integrating Christian values in business. And if you missed that, you can go back over to my YouTube channel, which is at Beverly Smith Resumes. You can go to the live tab. All of our replays are underneath the live tab. And be sure to catch that. It was a really insightful episode. And Adrian shared his own journey into business ownership, as well as creating a culture based on Christian values. Really, really insightful episode. But this week, I'm super excited to have my friend Mollie Campbell here, and we are going to be talking all about succession planning. So let me tell you a little bit about Mollie before we get started. Mollie has over 30 years of human resource experience working for and with domestic and international employers. She's known for her calm presence, detailed work, and her passion for people. Prior to founding Campbell HR Advisory, Mollie managed a team in the U.S. and across 3 continents working for nonprofits. She also worked for an HBCU, a major health insurance company, a medical university, as well as a professional employer organization. She has enjoyed working with clients in hunger relief, food sustainability, banking, public accounting, and legal industries. Mollie holds a BA degree in liberal arts from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and she is certified by the Society for Human Resource Management as a certified professional, and she holds a professional recruiter certification as well. Additionally, Mollie serves on the board of directors for the Arkansas Federal Credit Union. Mollie's an Arkansas native, an avid gardener, and a cook with 2 grandchildren who live in Little Rock and New York City, and who are raising 2 grand dogs. So gotta love those grand dogs, don't you, Mollie?
Yeah.
I know I'm nuts about mine when she comes to visit, and it's just stupid silly. Oh, well, welcome. I'm so glad you are here and joining us today, and I think this is going to be an exciting discussion.
Thank you, Beverly. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to be on your show. Thank you for asking me.
Well, you're welcome. So you and I actually met several years ago when we served on job fair committee for our local human resources chapter. And we've both been through a lot of changes since then. And I'm
Yes.
excited about the fact that you're now consulting and helping other people. And this topic, I think succession planning is definitely one of your areas of expertise.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Succession planning, there's several different aspects of it. If you're a business leader, you want to know that you have the right talent, and you want to know that you have people on the bus that are in the right seat.
mhm,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Tell us a little bit about what is meant by succession planning and why organizations need to do it.
Sure. So there are a couple of different areas of the company you want to look at to make sure, as I said, you have the right talent. Um, do you have some positions that are critical that if they suddenly got sick or won the lottery and were no longer there, do you have a backup? Do you have a backup plan? In my industry in human resources, one of those key people or key positions are people that run payroll, people that do the payroll, whether it's weekly or biweekly or bi-monthly. Do you have just one person that knows how to do that? You should have a backup plan for someone to be able to step in and do that. So that's one area to make sure you've got critical positions that are covered. Another reason for succession planning is to plan for position turnover. Um, People leave jobs, people retire, people get poached away. So knowing who's on your bench to maybe fill in those positions is critical. And then the third that I think some leaders or some professionals think is the only succession planning is replacing your CEO or replacing your top, your president of your company. Those are all three different reasons to do succession planning. Um, and they can go down different paths. They all have some similarities in how you approach it.
Mm, okay. So tell us, how does an organization get started on this process?
Um, I like to I like to suggest that if you're a leader, whether you're the owner or the CEO or vice president or senior leader of your organization, you make sure you understand your organization's why. And I've recently read Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why, and it was written in 2009, so I'm kind of late to the game reading this, but the message is absolutely current. Do you understand your company's mission? Um, what is the vision of the company so that you can be able to translate that to your prospective new employees or your current staff? Are you able to succinctly articulate this vision? And let me give you an example. This is not this is not telling what your company does. That's your what, as Simon Sinek um, makes the analogy. The vision is why the company is in business. Um,
Mm,
and so I have a real life example that I'm intimately familiar with because I was just able to attend new employee orientation for the Arkansas Federal Credit Union. I sit on their board of directors. And the CEO made a beautiful presentation to the new employees about the company's why they are in business. And I'll pull up some of my notes. And they say it in their public facing information. So their why they exist is very simple, is to be the difference. And then how do they do that? How is that carried out? And that goes on to the company, whether it's this company or any other company. This is your mission statement, not your vision, but your mission statement. How are
Mm-hmm.
you going to carry this out? And for them, the credit union, they have some things that read like um, the employees act like an owner. They value diverse opinions and action. I'm going to have to take off my glasses here. They want to make dreams come true. They strive for perfection. They show sincere concern for others. They challenge the status quo. And then you get to actually what do they do? They make loans. The credit union is in the business of making loans for cars, homes, commercial property. So, not to get too more deep in the weeds about it. So, understand your company's why. What is the vision of this company? Um, and I, I want to stress that that's important for leaders, whether they're looking at your succession planning or just being a good leader, is understanding your why.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That just has cultural implications too, as far
Yeah,
as the team goes and making sure you kind of have that cohesive body where everybody's on the same page. I know I coach a lot of my clients on interviewing, and one of the things I like to stress is they're not just interviewing you, you are interviewing them to understand if this is going to be a good long-term fit for you as well. And those are some of the things that we talk about. What is their vision? What is their mission? Can they
yeah.
tell you what it is? You know, and are they living it out? Sometimes I
Are
think some
they?
of these companies will have them, but they don't necessarily, live them.
Yeah, that makes a difference in a company, and whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit. How are they living out the mission? How are they living out the vision? It's not to it's not, if you think about the Martin Luther King Jr. speech, I have a dream, he didn't stand there and say, oh, I have an idea. He had a vision. He had a dream. It was more than, oh, this is a good idea. Um, so being able to articulate um, that why, and that leads you to being able to look at what the candidates that you bring into your company, are you able to describe that to your new employees, to your current staff, um, and do they get it? Do they understand
Yeah.
the why? Um, so when you talk about your talent and when you're thinking about succession planning, there are two ways to look at your talent. You either grow it or you buy it. And by that, I mean, you either grow it with developing the current talent, the current employees that you have, and you coach them, you train them, you develop them, you
Mhm.
give them opportunities for continuing education, you you make stretch assignments available to them, um, and you capitalize and play on their strengths. You use their talents and their skills, their knowledge, their abilities, um, to move them in the direction that they might want to go themselves. If it's a career trajectory for, let's say Bobby Sue, she has a talent in accounting. She wants to rise up in the finance and accounting department. Um, so are you growing Bobby Sue and giving her those opportunities? The other way to look at your talent is to buy it, and that is to hire somebody from outside the organization that has the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you want. Um, And that could be somebody at a senior level position. You might want to bring in a vice president, um, or you groom someone to rise to the leadership or to the position that you're trying to fill. Um, Assessing your talent is an ongoing process. Looking at who you have on the bus. Are they in the right seat? Do they have the right potential? Um, it's an ongoing process. So I'm going to jump ahead and
Go
mention,
ahead.
yeah, mention one of the tools that's used in my industry in human resources is something called the 9-box grid.
Hmm.
And it's a grid with 9 boxes in it. And the left hand side going from bottom to top is, I'm going to pull one up in front of me here, is potential, low potential, medium potential, high potential. And then going from left to right, it is performance and experience. And this activity a lot of times happens, well, my experience is I've seen it happen with the senior leadership and above. It's not necessarily an activity that may happen at every level in the organization. It's usually led by somebody in human resources, maybe a learning and development um, professional or your HR director. And it's a conversation that's had with senior leadership. So, for instance, a vice president over accounting would get together with the human resources professional and take a look at the leaders in the finance and accounting division. And that may be senior director and above. So let's say it's 10 names, it's 10 people. They would take this grid and plot where each one of those employees are at their stage in their career or their stage with the company. Is the person a high performer, but there's not, they don't, might not have the right potential for
Hmm.
exceeding? Or are they a high, what am I trying to say? Let's say you have somebody that's an outstanding performer, but low potential of rising higher in
Hmm.
their potential for being a leader. That might
Right.
be somebody like your steady Eddie. You know, this person
Hmm.
comes to work every day, they do their job, they're under the radar, they don't want to advance, they're comfortable in their job. Well, you might not want to, I mean, why would you want to get rid of them? You wouldn't. You need
Right.
those people. These are the people that are there every day. The door is open. I can think of several
Hmm.
people in my past
I
career.
can too.
Yeah, yeah, they're the ones you can count on, and they're going to be there, and they're the ones that are helping keep the day to day operations going.
Hmm.
Or you have somebody that's a really high performer, but they're a pain in the patootie to work with. They're excellent at their job, but they're just snarky, or
Uh-huh.
they just don't have management potential. Um, you might want to reassess if they are in the right job or if this is the right company for them.
Hmm.
And then then you have your scale of your high performers, your high potential. That's the top right hand corner of this 9 box. Um, and with conversations with your human resources professional or your learning and development leader and the senior leadership, you plot where these people are on this grid. And it's a conversation that needs to be thorough and thoughtful and objective.
Mm-hmm.
Then you take that information and you make plans. So we've got Billy Bob and Bobby Sue and Jimmy and Ann and Sarah and Chris. Where does the company want to move these people, and how are they going to do it? So if you've got some performers that, or if you've got some people that are poor performers, is there a performance improvement plan in place? Does there need to be a performance improvement plan? And we're talking about senior leaders here, but senior leaders still can have performance issues.
Right.
And so you work with your human resources people, and you set out a path. Does this person need a stretch assignment? Does this person just need some more time? They're young in their particular, or they're new, I wouldn't say young, but new in a position, and they just need more time to have under their belt. Or is some coaching required? Do they need a mentor? Do they need a coach, a professional coach? Would they benefit with some certification of some kind, going to a seminar? So you chart out a path, but it's not a one-time thing. This is ongoing. So I've worked with organizations, or I've worked for companies where I've seen this in action. It's done annually, so that companies are reviewing the plan. Is Billy Bob moving in the right direction? Did we address Emily's poor performance, and are we on track for where we think Emily needs to go? And another thing you need to look at is perhaps what is the danger or the risk of losing some of your top talent? So what are you doing to ensure that you're keeping your talent, and have those conversations? What is your career goal? What are your career goals? What is your professional development aspirations? What are? So when I've seen this in action, it happens every year at the same time every year. And I've seen it done a couple of different ways, with the employee in the conversation, or the employee knowing about this information later, or it's done without the employees knowing where they are on the grid. So one reason for keeping it confidential with senior leadership and HR is it could be demoralizing, and you don't want that. Goodness knows we have enough demoralizing stuff going on in the workplace as it is. But it's a management tool. I know one time I had the I wouldn't say audacity, but I had the courage to say to my manager one time, where do I sit? And she reminded me that I wasn't at the level where the company did that activity. I was a manager. But it didn't hurt to ask.
Sure.
To ask my manager, what do you see my potential? Where do you see my performance? Now, I'm going to go off on a tangent. We have this crazy thing called a performance review, which I just hate. I just hate them. The employees hate them. Management hates them. I'm for throwing those out the window, throwing them in the trash. And I advocate for having constant feedback and regular feedback. I know
Mm-hmm.
some companies do them. I know a lot of companies do them because it's the only measure that they think of that they can use for giving raises or merit increases is to have a metric. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I hate being put in a box. I hate being given.
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
Or if they have to make cuts, that's their
Yeah,
other thing
yeah,
too, and that's kind of the sad truth of all of that. Um, yeah.
yeah. So so doing a talent assessment using the 9 box grid is an excellent tool for, especially if you're a visual kind of person. If you're a
Mm,
senior leader and you're looking at a box or a grid and you say, "Oh, I can easily see visually where my employees are in their progression with their growth and their potential and their performance," um, and then coming up with the plan on how to develop those people.
mm-hmm.
So when you're looking
Absolutely.
at when you're looking at perhaps your senior, your executives, your C-suite, your CEO, this is very helpful to do as well. I mean, you would do it with these leaders. You also want to pay attention to things like retirement age. You know, you can't ask an employee, "Oh, when are you planning on retiring?" But some nonprofits um, that have the CEO is or some nonprofits that have a board of directors, the
Mm-hmm.
CEO is the employee of the board of directors. Um, and they can chart or they can estimate, when their CEO is going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It might be known, it might be anticipated, it might be guessed, either by retiring or CEOs tend to stay in positions for a chunk of time and then move to the next opportunity. It could be a 10-year stint or a 15-year stint.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so considering when a CEO or president will be exiting, it's a known occasion. It will happen. It's important to look at your bench. Are you grooming your CFO to be the CEO? Are you grooming your COO to step in as the next CEO or president?
Mm-hmm.
And where is the bench below those vice presidents or the other chiefs? Are they being prepped? Are they being groomed? Are they being um, stretched so that they can step in? So it's a process. It takes time, but if it's ongoing, then you are already on the trajectory of being able to have your talent in place. Now, when I say buy the talent, you might not have somebody on your bench that is qualified,
Mm-hmm.
or that you might not want, and that's kind of hard to say. You
Yeah.
might not think, "Oh, Jason, who's our CFO, is great at being a CFO, but running the company as the president or the chief executive officer, that's not really in his bag of tricks."
Right.
So you may be planning that your succession plan may be that you're going to go externally
Mm-hmm.
and find your talent outside your organization. And you would still do the same kind of steps. You would understand and put together a profile of your company that describes your why. Why are you in the business? How do you go about accomplishing that why? And what is it that you do to accomplish that why?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're working with a search firm, this will be part of your company profile that they'll
Sure.
use to look for talent. I mean,
Hmm.
you know this being in recruiting.
Yeah.
Um, and and then then the world is your talent pool that you're looking for, right?
Mhm. It's a big one.
It's a big one. And now we're in such a global economy, a global market, a global marketplace, a global um, employers are finding talent across the globe. Working, I mean, this work remote is here to stay. Having talent that sits in their chair in your office, sitting in front of two computer screens is the thing of the past. Um, well, it's not a thing of the past, but having the
It's
remote,
different.
having
Hmm.
the remote employee um, is is here to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it kind of goes across all levels too.
It
It's really going
does.
to depend on the organization and what is best fit for them. But I think the trend for flexibility can be a very positive thing, um, and open doors for, like you said, globally, to have someone, maybe in another state work for a company right here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. I know of a nonprofit it's a global nonprofit based here in Little Rock. Their HR vice president lives in California.
uh-huh. It's so
And I was just
interesting. Yes.
yeah. And I was
Uh,
talking to a client, a search client, I mean, a candidate who's looking for a job, who's in human resources. And he's resolute that he's not moving. His family is got roots and ties in their local community. And he says, I'm having trouble talking to these companies that's saying, oh no, we need our HR leader to sit here in our headquarters.
mm,
So it's still frustrating.
yeah.
I think that's going to change. I think we're evolving, um, and he's sticking to his guns. He's open
Uh-huh.
to commuting, but he's not moving his family.
Right, right. That's so interesting. And then I think a case can be made either way, but I think ultimately it comes back what is the best for the business, being able to carry out its mission and vision, and does that mean that people need to be on site or hybrid, or can we work remote? And knowing those things, having clarity, and I feel like that's one of the things that after 2020, a lot of businesses are having to stop and kind of regroup and go back and go, okay, we made this work. Was this good for us? Um, would it be in our best interest, talent wise, to be able to continue in this model, or do we need to draw a line in the sand? But really have making that decision. I don't know what your opinion is, but mine is if they don't really need to know that before they start the hiring process versus, oh, we really like this candidate. Okay, let's see if maybe we're willing to change the rules for that candidate, but we're not over here for this employee that's been with us for 10 years and now is asking to stay remote or hybrid, and we've said no. So
Yeah,
just
you're
my
just
thought is that you you need to know before you start that process where you're going to bend on that.
right. I just read a book called 10 Times is Easier Than Two Times. And there's two authors that posit if you want to stretch and grow, not to just be two times better, but 10 times better, you're going to have to let go of a lot of the mundane things that are taking up your time in
Mm-hmm.
order to stretch yourself and grow. And the authors used a lot of examples from companies across America, I guess, that made that leap. And in order to make that leap, you have to let go of some old thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, oh, I didn't research this before I started coming on the podcast, but like let's say for instance, Blockbuster or Kodak, you know the industries that they were in were rapidly changing. And in order for them to grow and keep up, they were going to have to let go of some old thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the successes has been Apple. You take a look at how Apple went from developing the iPod to the next iteration of music on your phone to streaming phone to streaming music to whatever the next iteration was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they had to let go of the iPod. They had to, Blockbuster didn't succeed because they didn't get on the bandwagon for streaming movies. They thought, oh, we're going to stay in this lane and this is what we're going to do. Those are just some, I might not have explained those exactly correctly, but these companies that are saying, oh, we need all these employees back in the building because we can't have these empty buildings. Well, maybe the time has come where you have to let go of those buildings and let go. It may cost you in the short run, but then how can you then think outside the box to um, develop your remote working experience
Mm-hmm.
and promote that? I don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
but I know that I know that so many employees are saying you cannot explain to me a reasonable way of why I need to come back into the building
Mm-hmm.
when in 2020 and 2021 we all work from home successfully. Oh, we need you here. We need you here so we can collaborate. Get out of the box and find different ways to collaborate. If you're
Mm-hmm.
old school, learn new ways. Because I tell you, this next generation of people of employees, this next generations, they're going to force you to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
start now.
Yeah. And it goes back to the Blockbuster example. Those that are willing to be flexible and adapt are going to survive, and the others are going to be, have be sitting alone at a desk with no
Right.
employees and probably no business. So and these empty buildings, things will come along for them. They'll be repurposed in some other way, whether it's for housing or who knows, or maybe there will be another type of business that is better suited for um, in-person work. So it's truly, where is it the best fit?
Yeah,
And that type of
exactly.
thing.
And
And
I'm,
and it's so, I was gonna say it's so interesting too because there are some employees that I talk to that are like my team when we were in staffing, they didn't want to be remote. They were like, we miss each other and we want to come to the office
yeah,
and work together. And I think the other thing for them was they really liked being able to close everything down, and when they were home, they were home. Um, so it's just,
definitely. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
everybody will have their fit. It's just finding it for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying that the remote is the only way. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that the work environment has transitioned, that there are multiple
Definitely.
ways of working. And the companies and employers and businesses need to embrace that that is the new normal, is that there are
Mhm.
different work environments now. Um,
And it's so exciting, actually. I mean, there's so many different opportunities as well because of that. They're just I look at what you and I now do, and the whole remote work. We don't need an offsite office, although having one to come to, which I've found me an office space, has been really good for me. But for the most part, like 3 days a week, I can do what I need to do from my home. So,
yeah,
it's just that's all different opportunities. I want to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk a little bit about um, we've talked about the organization and how they conduct succession planning, but I really want to talk about the individual employee and what can he or she do to advance and to be ready for promotion.
yeah, good question. So if you want to advance, if you are not the person that is just the steady Eddie, I'm just going to come to work and do my job, and I'm going to go home, and then my job is over, and I don't have to think about anything else. Um, if you're not that person and you want to grow in your career, grow in your passion, I hope people have passion for their work. So look for ways for improving your knowledge, whether it's your knowledge of your particular area of study, your particular area of work. Improve your skills, and improve your abilities, your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Um, Whether you do that on your own, read books, read blogs, read interviews, read social media, not just memes of cats, but be intentional on learning and improving what you do. I'm not a person that's really advanced in excuse me, in Excel. Now I can do some basics, but I know if I wanted a higher job in an accounting function, I would need to have better Excel software experience. There's tons of places on the internet to take a free course to
Mhm.
improve that skill. So you don't have to rely on your company to say, oh, we want to send you to this Excel course. Go out there and do it yourself. Improve yourself to improve your worth. Um, the second is absolutely take advantage of any education offered by the company.
Mhm.
If it's a large organization and they have internal courses on leadership, or if they have a learning management system and there are courses that you can sign up for, take advantage of it. If they will send you to a conference, take advantage of it. If they offer to pay for your certification in your chosen field, take advantage of it. Take advantage of the free education to improve your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Um, Perhaps you could ask for a stretch assignment. I see this in developing employees into leaders and into managers. The worst thing you can do to an employee is promote them to be a leader and they don't have any leadership experience.
Mhm.
You just promoted them because they were good at their job,
Uh-huh.
and not everybody is good at being a leader.
No, it's
So,
hard.
oh, well, it's a different skill set.
It is.
Just because you've done something well doesn't mean you are good or talented at leading other people. So, look for stretch assignments that may help you, let's say, chair a committee,
Mhm.
or that's a real good one, or lead an initiative. where you have an opportunity to work with other people in the company, where you can be involved in coordinating and managing time, or uh, just working with other people in a group setting. That's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
Another stretch assignment might be working with an outside vendor to develop something, to show your capability of stretching your skills. So stretch assignments are great. Um, I like working with mentors. I have enjoyed being a mentor. I have had several mentors in my career that have been invaluable, for building my confidence, building my self esteem, passing on learning, and just knowing somebody's in my corner.
Mm-hmm.
So if your company has a mentor program, great. Um, See if you can take advantage of that, or ask to be assigned a mentor. Some companies do that with new employee orientation. They match seasoned employee with brand new employee, and they follow them throughout maybe their first 90 days or their first year.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be a mentor outside of your company. It could be a mentor in your same industry or your same
Right.
function. I've used accounting, in a couple of my examples. You might not have a mentor in your company, but you know the the payroll coordinator at Acme Brick, and you're in payroll, or you're an accounting associate. Maybe that accounting or payroll coordinator at Acme Brick would agree to mentor you and say,
Mm-hmm.
here are some of the things that I've learned in my career. Um,
Uh, Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's so I love that topic so much because in fact I did a whole live stream on mentoring and coaching and why it's good to be on both sides. You've kind of touched on how much you enjoy doing it, but I think it stretches you as well being a mentor as well as having being a mentee. So I think about too is you and I were both members of CARA. That's a great place. Maybe if you're starting out in HR, and you could easily hook up with people that are in other industries but are still in the HR space that could mentor you into growing and developing your career, and also to expose you because I think sometimes we get in our head, okay, I'm here and this is where I'm going to, it's going to go on this linear progression. And then we all of a sudden realize, well, that doesn't really seem like something I'd enjoy doing. So what are
yeah,
other opportunities and
yeah,
how can I best use that and serve my company or serve my family, those kinds of things.
exactly. And I've
Yeah.
seen that happen. You think your career trajectory is going to be like this, and then you discover a new interest,
Uh-huh.
and your passion may change, and you think, oh, I thought I was going to go into development, but now I want to go
Right.
into communication because, oh, it just lights the fire inside you.
So
So,
true. So
yeah,
true. I've worked with a couple of actually, I've worked with several sales resume clients that are in the sales profession, and just naturally we're like, okay, I really probably need to go and be a sales manager, but none of them wanted to do that. They were driven by the sales process, and the idea of managing a team of 10 or 12 salespeople just made them want to vomit and
right,
was like, no, that I want to be in front of the client. I want to manage the process there,
right,
but I don't want to manage, 10 other people. And it kind of goes back to not everyone's cut out for management. And just because they have had successful sales careers does not mean they're going to be a good fit. And it makes you wonder too, does your sales manager have to have had a stellar sales career, or does he or she is just excellent managing people and motivating and training and those kinds of things? So,
Yeah. There's several different thoughts on that. How can you manage sales if you don't understand sales?
mhm,
How can you manage, how can you manage, yeah. Uh, in my career, in my profession in human resources, it's sort of like, well, I've never worked for a beer distributor before, but I have worked for an accounting firm, and human resources can translate from one industry to another.
mhm.
That's one of the perks about this industry. You you mentioned CARA, which is the Central Arkansas Human Resources Association. Um, that's another thing, another way you can, if you're the individual and you want to stretch or grow, is join your local association for your industry, whether it's accounting or development or communications or human resources or um, bricklayers. There might be an association you can join where you can meet other individuals that are growing. They might have education opportunities, and networking is an excellent way for the individual to say to themselves, "Okay, I want to grow," and that's going to lead me to my next point. Is you might have to be really realistic, and in order to grow, you might have to leave your company because they're just not opportunities. Um,
Right.
I've experienced that myself. I was in a manager position, and the next level up was a director, but there was no way in the foreseeable future that I could see the directors retiring or resigning. They were very happy, and I wasn't
Mhm.
just going to stay waiting on them. So I had to leave the company to get a director position. Um, and
Right.
and not all companies are going to, say, and they might not have the position. I worked with a client recently that had a coordinator in the HR department, and she desperately wanted to be a manager. Well, they did on the HR team. They didn't have a manager position on the HR team. And
Mhm.
so she said, I want to be promoted. I want to be promoted. And I've got all these skills and this education, this experience. And I said, they don't have that position. And but the risk was that she was going to leave, and she
Mhm.
did. She left. But that
Mhm.
was right for her to advance in her career. She had to leave to
Right.
grow. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's just it is part of it, and knowing and seeing where those opportunities are, and again, it kinda goes back to why you as an organization or as senior leadership in an organization want to conduct succession planning, because that's just gonna be part of it. You're gonna lose people by attrition
yeah.
because they're going to want to grow and move ahead in their own careers.
Yeah.
So,
I've
yeah.
been on, as an employee and as a consultant, and especially working in human resources, I've been in both camps. Um, the um, the employer has their MO, their way of doing things, how they want to run the company. The senior leadership has their personality and their style and their management and leadership expertise. And then the other side are the employees, the
Mhm.
individual employees who are trying to manage their job, bring home a paycheck, manage their careers. And the the employer camp is, oh, we're going to do what we can do to try and develop our employees, and we've got all these programs and we're a great employer. And then you've got the employee on this side, and I've talked to both of them, and the employees are, I tell them, as much as I tell the employer, I tell the employees, you've got to own your own career. You can't rely on your company to to be in charge of your career.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be in charge of your career yourself. Even though there's all these things happening at the job that you may be able to take advantage of, and they're doing great things, I hate to say this, but the company is not going to look out for your career growth as much as you are as the
Mm-hmm.
employee yourself.
Sure, sure.
You
So, and
know,
somewhere in the middle is that happy medium, but for
right?
sure, I mean, ultimately, we're all responsible for our own happiness and doing what is in the best interest. And the company is going to have to do what's in its best interest to maintain its profitability and those kinds of things. And it can't just create a position just to create a position. As in the
Yeah,
example, you used of the the candidate that wanted to be promoted. If there's nothing to promote to, there's nothing to promote to, which
right.
eh, the I see that a lot with some of my clients too. Is they've gone as far as they can get with this with this company, and there's just not, short of a tragedy, there's not going to be any other types of opportunities.
Yeah,
So it is time for
exactly.
them to move on. And I
Yeah,
think the beauty that I have seen in the employment world is, unlike, when you and I graduated from college, it was like, okay, you go get a job and you stay at this one place for 25, 30, 40 years or whatever. It's not like that anymore. And
no,
and honestly, I think the sweet spot is somewhere between 4 to 7 years, and then you probably need to move on unless it's a family business, or unless you just are so, you know in the perfect spot that you're not going to move. But sometimes I see those people are the ones that get the biggest shock too,
yeah,
when 20 years down the road and they're like, this is all I know. So,
yeah.
mm.
I
Molly,
remember
go
I
ahead.
remember early in my HR career when I was doing recruiting, looking at resume after resume, trying to fill positions and seeing. I mean, back then, and we're talking about early '90s, maybe. I'm dating myself, but making decisions on who would move forward by seeing how quickly they jump from
Uh-huh.
one position to another. It's like, oh, you're not reliable. You're not, um, you know, we won't be able to keep you. Well, now I don't even look at that. I mean,
Yeah.
because I know, especially if you're younger, um, that's just what's happening. My
Hmm.
dad, I think in his professional career, after he got married, he had two jobs, and
Hmm.
he retired, having had two employers in his whole work life, as an adult. And I look at my children who are in their early 30s. Well, I can, they already are like in second or third
Uh-huh.
different careers, not just jobs, different careers.
Uh-huh.
And so, if you're younger and you're listening to our podcast today, um, this is this may be old school information in about 5 years. Because the world is just changing
It's
so
changing
much.
very,
Yeah,
very, very rapidly. But I do think that, the transition doesn't have the stigma anymore. And in
right.
fact, I almost think that someone who's been there, you know, 15 years might have maybe a little bit of a stigma put on them because they haven't been elsewhere. So it's,
Yeah, and I you've seen it and I've seen it. The candidates that are like 20 years at a company, and they are seeing the horizon, saying, oh, this company is not going to be able to keep me, or things are changing and I can see the handwriting, and I need to move on. And sometimes I'm having difficult conversations with them saying, well, how have you kept up? What have you done in this past 20 years? Have you just been sitting back, working this job? How are you preparing yourself to be um, attractive and marketable now that it's 20 years later? I mean, these people haven't looked for a job in 20 years. They don't know social media and how to use social media to find a job. They're still saying, "Oh, I'm going to mail my resume." Are you kidding me? Nobody mails a resume, you know, right?
It is such a different world for
Yeah,
sure. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I am going to put your contact information in the chat for everyone. And based on what you and I've said, I know LinkedIn is the best place for people to follow you.
right.
And also, too, you should go check out Molly's website if you're interested in working with her. And guys, I thank you so much for staying with us. This has been a great conversation. If we didn't get any questions, but if you're catching the replay, you've got questions, be sure to tag me in that, and that way I'll get a notification and can come back and maybe bring Molly back to answer questions with me. But for
I'd be
sure,
happy to.
tag us, and we'll be happy to do that. And just a reminder too, that if you are looking to make a change in your career and want to talk about what a professionally written resume would look like for you, you can definitely get on my calendar. You can book an appointment for a complimentary consultation. We can talk more about your situation specifically, your next steps, as well as the job search process, and would love to help you out with that. And with that being said, we've got a great episode planned next week, all on salary negotiation. So I will see you on my next live stream. Thank you, Molly, for joining us, and we will see everybody next week.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
You're well, Molly, it's not ending.